She raised his twins in a one-room apartment while he built a $2 billion empire, and he never knew they existed. Not because he didn't care, because someone made sure he never found out. For 16 years, his own lawyer deleted her desperate calls, erased her voicemails, buried the truth that he was a father. Now, at a charity event he's hosting, Calvin Heckman just locked eyes with two teenagers serving soup. His eyes staring back at him, his dimples, his children, and the woman who survived 16 years alone is standing 3 feet away, deciding whether to destroy him or let him try to earn what he stole from them time. Calvin Heckman dropped a $3,000 champagne glass the moment he saw them. Not her, though. Seeing Judith Dixon, after 16 years, hit like a knife between the ribs. But the two teenagers standing beside her at the soup station, ladling food with careful hands. The boy's sharp jawline, the girl's dark eyes, the unmistakable dimple when she smiled. His dimple, his children, the twins he never knew existed. But here's what Calvin didn't know yet, and what you need to pay attention to. Someone had made absolutely certain he never found out about them. And that person had been with him all night, watching this moment unfold. Everything Calvin built over 16 years, the $2.4 billion empire, the reputation, the perfectly controlled life, meant nothing now. Because standing 20 feet away was the truth that would unravel everything. Calvin arrived at the Westbridge Convention Hall 23 minutes early, like always. Control started with punctuality. It carried through every handshake, every calculated smile, every speech about giving back. The annual Heckman Foundation Holiday Feast was supposed to be simple. 500 guests, perfect press, the kind of event that made investors comfortable. What he didn't expect was for his past to be serving soup. He scanned the volunteer stations, green aprons, organized chaos, steam rising from metal pots. His assistant confirmed everything was ready. The mayor would arrive in 40 minutes. Then he saw her. Judith Dixon. Hair in a simple bun, sleeves rolled up, hands steady as she served. 16 years had passed, but he'd know her anywhere. The slope of her shoulders. The scar above her left eyebrow from that college bike accident. She'd been the only woman who made him feel like more than his ambitions. The only one who loved him when he had nothing. The only one he walked away from when success called. But it wasn't Judith that stopped his heart. It was the twins working beside her. A boy, maybe 16, adjusting napkin dispensers with precision. A girl refilling apple cider, laughing with an elderly guest. Both in green aprons, both with Calvin's face. The resemblance wasn't subtle. It was undeniable. The boy's jawline, the girl's eyes, that dimple. The champagne flute slipped from his hand. Glass exploded across marble. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. But Calvin couldn't move. He'd spent 16 years building Heckman Industries from nothing. Investors called him the Mind of Steel. Employees feared his silence. Media called him successful. But success was the lie he told himself to avoid facing what he'd lost. He was staring at two teenagers he should have known, should have raised, should have loved, and the weight nearly brought him to his knees. Now pay close attention to what happens next, because the man standing behind Calvin, his lawyer, Marcus Reeves, the one who'd structured every deal for 16 years, just saw what Calvin saw, and his face went white. Calvin moved forward, through the crowd, past tables, past cameras, past his event coordinator, trying to get his attention. His heart slammed against his ribs. Judith hadn't noticed him yet. She was helping an elderly woman with her tray. The boy stepped in smoothly to carry it. The girl handed the woman extra napkins with a warm smile. They were kind without calculation. Everything Calvin forgot how to be. He stopped 3 feet from the serving station. Judith turned and froze. The ladle clattered into the soup pot, splashing broth. Her eyes locked onto his. Shock, anger, fear. Everything flickered across her face in 2 seconds. Then armor. Years of it. Calvin? Her whisper cut like glass. His name sounded like something buried. The twins paused, sensing the shift. The girl tilted her head. Mom? Who's that? Judith's hands gripped the table edge, knuckles white. Kids, she said quietly, too quietly. Take a break, please. The boy frowned, protective. But please, Judith repeated. 16 years of pain, in one word. Mary and Alfred exchanged a look, silent sibling language, then walked toward the dessert table, whispering, glancing back. Calvin's throat burned. Behind him, Marcus Reeves was already moving toward the exit. Remember that. It matters. Judith inhaled. Exhaled with control born from holding herself together when falling apart wasn't an option. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "This is my foundation's event," Calvin said. The words tasted like ash. "Of course it is." Her laugh was bitter. "You always loved good press." Silence stretched. Around them, the feast continued. But here, the air suffocated. Calvin's gaze drifted to the twins. "Judith," he breathed. "Those kids, are they?" "Yes." Sharp, final. "They're yours." The floor tilted. "And here's what you need to understand. This isn't just about a man finding his children. It's about what was stolen from all of them. And who did the stealing." "I didn't know," Calvin managed, voice cracking. "I swear, I didn't know." "You didn't listen," she snapped. "I called. I told you I needed to talk, and you said," her voice broke. She steadied herself. "You said you couldn't do this right now. You chose a merger over us." The memory surfaced. Judith calling during the Dawson chaos, her shaking voice, him, annoyed. "I can't do this right now. I'll call you back." He never did. But what Calvin didn't know, what Judith didn't know either, was that Marcus Reeves had intercepted 3 other calls, deleted voicemails. Made certain Calvin never heard the words, "I'm pregnant." "I thought you wanted to stop me," Calvin said. "To make me choose between you and my future." "I was trying to tell you about our future," she said. Before Calvin could respond, Mary walked back. Alfred followed, shoulders squared. "Mom?" Mary's voice trembled. "Is everything okay?" Judith closed her eyes, gathered strength, opened them with resolve. "Mary, Alfred, calm now," decided. "This is Calvin Heckman." Alfred's eyes widened. The CEO of Heckman Industries? Calvin wanted to disappear. "Yes," Judith said. She looked at Calvin with 16 years of exhaustion. "And he's also your father." The words detonated. Mary's lips parted, color drained. Alfred's expression shifted confusion to disbelief, to betrayal. Mary's voice came out small, devastating. "Why didn't you want us?" And that question, that simple, heartbreaking question, is going to change everything. Not just for Calvin, but for everyone who kept this secret. Now here's what I need you to understand about moments like this. The ones that split life into before and after. Where everything you thought you knew shatters. If you've ever had a moment that changed everything, a revelation that rewrote your history, you know this feeling. And if you're watching because you understand consequences you can't take back, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this story gets messier, deeper, and more real than you expect. What Calvin says in the next 60 seconds will either destroy this moment or become the beginning of something he doesn't deserve. And you're going to want to see how this unfolds. "Why didn't you want us?" Mary's question hung in the air like smoke after fire. But here's what nobody in that room knew yet, including Calvin. The real reason he never got those calls wasn't just his ambition. Someone made sure he stayed ignorant. And that someone was about to get exposed. Calvin opened his mouth, closed it. Every boardroom tactic failed here. "I didn't know," he finally said, raw, unpolished. "I swear, I didn't know about you." Alfred's jaw clenched. "Convenient. It's the truth," Calvin said, looking at his son. "I failed your mother 16 years ago. I was 23, selfish, obsessed with becoming someone important. When she called, I didn't listen. I assumed she wanted to stop me, so I cut her off." He swallowed. "I didn't know she was trying to tell me I was going to be a father." Judith's eyes glistened. Mary looked at Alfred. Alfred looked at the floor. The thing they didn't know, the thing Calvin was about to discover, would make this so much worse. "Mom worked double shifts," Alfred said quietly, controlled rage underneath. "We didn't have a car until last year. She did everything alone while you built your empire." Each word landed like a knife. Calvin didn't dodge one. "I know," he said. "I'm sorry. Those words don't fix anything. They don't give you back your childhood. But they're all I have." Judith spoke. "We can't do this here. Not in front of everyone." Calvin nodded. "You're right. When I saw them, outside, Judith interrupted. She looked at the twins. "We finish this outside." Mary hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." They moved toward the exit. Calvin followed steps behind. What Calvin didn't see, Marcus Reeves slipping out a different door. Phone already to his ear. Damage control already starting. The December air hit like a slap. They stepped into a courtyard lit by string lights. Judith walked to a bench and turned like a warrior preparing for battle. Mary and Alfred flanked her. A family that survived without him. Calvin stayed near the door. Hands at his sides. Defenseless. "I need to understand," Alfred said. "You say you didn't know Mom was pregnant, but she called. Multiple times?" Judith nodded. 4 times in 2 weeks. 3 voicemails, 6 texts. "And you ignored all of them?" Alfred's voice shook. "Yes," Calvin admitted. Poison on his tongue. "I was terrified of failure. Your mother's calls felt like distraction. Like she was pulling me from my one chance." He looked at Judith. "I was wrong. About everything. But here's the part that's going to break him, and he doesn't know it's coming yet." "You sent me a check," Judith said, voice cracking. $50,000, with a legal document asking me to sign away any future claims. Calvin flinched. "My lawyer said you'd try to trap me, that I needed to protect myself." Remember that name, Marcus Reeves, the lawyer. This detail matters more than Calvin realizes. "Trap you?" Judith's laugh was harsh. "I loved you, Calvin. I didn't want to trap you. I wanted you to want us." The truth destroyed him. "I'm so sorry," Calvin whispered. "Sorry doesn't feed children," Alfred shot back. "Sorry doesn't show up for 16 years. "You're right," Calvin said. "I can't change that. But I'm standing here now, begging for the chance to know you." Mary wiped her eyes. "How do we even do that? You're a stranger." "I know," Calvin said. "Maybe I always will be. But if you give me a chance, I'll show up. Every time." They are supporters. Judith studied him, then looked at her children. "This is your choice," she said softly. "If you want to walk away, I support that. If you want to give him a chance, I support that too. But you don't owe him anything. And here's the thing about second chances, they're never given easily. They're earned step by painful step. If you've ever been in a position where someone asked forgiveness after years of absence, you know this impossible choice. Part of you wants to believe people change. Part of you knows hoping again means risking more pain. If this is resonating, I need you to leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever given someone a second chance? Did they earn it? Because what happens next depends on whether these twins can risk hope again. Alfred's hands unclenched. "I don't trust you. I understand. I don't know if I can forgive you. I wouldn't expect you to. But..." Alfred looked at Mary. She nodded. "Maybe we could talk. Sometimes. See if you're serious." Calvin's breath hitched. "I'll take that." Mary stepped forward, voice small but clear. "Can you walk us home?" Judith's eyes widened. "Mary, you don't." "I want to," Mary interrupted. She looked at Calvin. "If you're going to be in our lives, you should see where we actually live." Calvin's throat burned. "I would be honored." Judith stared. Then something shifted in her face. "Okay," she said. "Walk with us." But what none of them knew, Marcus Reeves was already 3 steps ahead, making sure this reunion stayed controlled, contained, manageable. And when Calvin found out what Marcus had done 16 years ago, everything would explode. The walk began in silence. Calvin stayed 3 steps behind Judith in the middle, Mary left, Alfred right. A unit that functioned without him. Every block, the neighborhood shifted. Boutique coffee shops became coin laundries. Art galleries became check-cashing stores. Calvin noticed everything. And here's where it gets important. Pay attention to these details. They matter for what's coming. Mary's coat, blue puffer. Patch on the elbow, navy thread that didn't match. Someone tried to make poverty invisible. Alfred's sneakers, name brand once, now soles separating, laces mismatched. He walked with adjusted gait shoes that hurt, but replacement wasn't an option. Judith's purse held together with a safety pin. Calvin felt sick. He'd spent $12,000 on a watch last month, owned 4 cars he never drove, had a wine cellar with bottles worth more than their monthly groceries. And his children wore patched coats and broken shoes. They passed a corner store. An elderly man struggled with grocery bags. Mary noticed immediately. "Mr. Chen," she jogged over. "Let me help." The old man's face lit up. "Mary, you're too kind. You say that every time," she laughed, taking both bags. Alfred joined, taking one. Together they walked Mr. Chen to his building, waited while he unlocked his door. "Your mama raised you right," Mr. Chen said, patting Alfred's shoulder. "She did," Alfred agreed quietly. "Now remember this moment, Mr. Chen, the groceries, the kindness. Because it's going to matter when Alfred breaks later." Calvin watched from the sidewalk, throat tight. Mary helped because it was who she was. No calculation, no agenda. Everything he'd forgotten while building his empire. When they continued, Calvin fell back in step. 2 more blocks. Judith stopped. A 4-story brick building, 1,970 seconds. Forgotten since. Peeling paint, plywood window, cracked steps. "This is us," Judith said. Calvin kept his expression neutral. Alfred's jaw tightened anyway. "Not what you're used to, right?" "Alfred," Judith warned. "It's okay," Calvin said. "He's right." They climbed creaking steps. Judith unlocked the door stuck, had to shove with her shoulder, practiced force. Inside smelled like old carpet and someone's dinner. Flickering overhead light. 2 flights. Loose railing. Apartment 3C. 3 locks. Judith opened the door. Small living room. Spotlessly clean, undeniably cramped. Couch with compressed cushions, duct-taped arm. Coffee table propped on cardboard. Bookshelf from cinder blocks and planks. But the walls pay attention to the walls, because what's on them tells you everything about what Calvin missed. Mary's drawings taped with care. Watercolors of the neighborhood. Mr. Chen's store. The park. Alfred's certificates. Robotics. Honor roll. Photos of the twins at every age. Birthday parties with homemade cakes. Holidays with dollar store decorations. First days of school. Halloween costumes from thrift stores. An entire childhood documented. A childhood Calvin missed completely. And this is where things shift, because what Judith is about to show him will break him. "Sit," Judith said. Calvin sat. Springs creaked. Mary disappeared into the kitchen. Alfred hovered, guarding. Judith stood, studying Calvin. "I need to tell you something," she said. Calvin braced. She walked to a desk, opened the bottom drawer, pulled out a yellowed envelope, handed it to him. Inside, a check, $50,000, made out to Judith Dixon, 16 years ago. Never cashed. "I don't understand," Calvin whispered. Judith's voice was steady, eyes wet. "You sent that 1 week after I told you I was pregnant. Your lawyer included a letter, one-time settlement. By cashing it, I'd agree to no further financial claims." Calvin closed his eyes. The memory made him sick. "But here's what you need to know. Marcus Reeves drafted that letter. Marcus made sure those calls never got through. Marcus built walls between Calvin and this family. And Marcus is still doing it. I could have used that money," Judith continued. Tears fell. "There were months with $17 in my account. Months I skipped meals so the twins could eat. Months I wore the same scrubs 5 days because I couldn't afford laundry." Voice cracked. "I stood in that kitchen sobbing, staring at this check, thinking how easy it would be to make the pain stop." "Why didn't you?" Calvin asked. "Because I didn't want their lives built on your guilt," she said fiercely. "I wanted you to want them, to come back because you loved us." The check slipped from Calvin's hands. This is what real sacrifice looks like. Working yourself to exhaustion, raising brilliant children in a cramped apartment. Doing it with more dignity than some people show with millions. If you're watching this and thinking about someone in your life who needs to hear it, someone who keeps choosing wrong things, missing what's in front of them, share this video with them right now. Send it. Because sometimes, people need to see their story reflected to understand what they're losing. And if you haven't subscribed, do it now. Because what happens when Calvin reads Judith's hidden letters, that's where this becomes something else entirely. She'd worked to exhaustion, sacrificed everything, raised 2 extraordinary humans, while he built empires on cowardice. "I don't want apologies," she said. "I want to know if you're serious, because those kids have been through enough. I won't let you walk in just to disappear when it gets inconvenient." "I'm not going anywhere," Calvin said. Voice fierce, despite tears. "I swear. I will show up. Every Saturday." Every moment they'll let me. Mary returned with mismatched mugs of tea. Handed one to her mother, one to Calvin. Alfred doesn't drink tea, she explained softly. Calvin took the chipped mug. Weak tea, the most meaningful thing anyone had given him. Thank you, he whispered. Alfred finally moved into the room. So what now? Calvin looked at Judith. She set her mug down. This doesn't change anything. Not yet. You don't get to show up once and call yourself their father. I know. You don't get to throw money at this. I know. And if you hurt them, I will make certain you never see them again. Calvin met her gaze. I understand. I accept those terms. Judith studied him, searching for cracks, then nodded. You can visit, supervised, here, weekends, if the twins agree. Mary looked at Alfred. Alfred looked at Calvin. Saturdays, he said quietly. 2 hours. You're late once? You're done. You cancel without good reason? We're done. You make mom cry? We're done. Most beautiful ultimatum Calvin ever received. I'll be here early, he promised. An hour later, Calvin stood outside staring up at the third-floor window. Driver texted 6 times. Assistant forwarded 11 emails. CFO wanted quarterly projections. He ignored all of it. He thought about patched coats, broken shoes, the uncashed check. He pulled out his phone, typed, I will earn them, not with money, with presents. Then walked to his car, counting days until Saturday. But what Calvin didn't know, his phone was about to ring. And what he'd learn about Marcus Reeves would change everything. Calvin hadn't slept. He'd sat in his penthouse until dawn, staring at the city, thinking about 16 years of absence compressed into patched elbows and uncashed checks. His phone rang at 6:47 a.m. Unknown number. He answered, Mr. Heckman, my name is Patricia Donovan. I was Marcus Reeves' assistant from 2007 to 2012. Calvin sat up. What? I saw the photo online, she continued, of you and those kids. I need to tell you something that's been eating at me for years. His blood went cold. What are you talking about? Now pay close attention to this, because what you're about to hear changes everything. Marcus made me delete voicemails, she said. Her voice shook. From a woman named Judith. 3 of them. The year of the Dawson merger. She sounded desperate, Mr. Heckman. She kept saying she needed to tell you something important. And Marcus had me delete them before they reached you. The room tilted. He what? He said you couldn't be distracted during negotiations, that this woman was trying to sabotage your future. He made me send that settlement check and legal document. He drafted the language to make it sound final, to scare her off. Patricia's voice cracked. I didn't know about the twins until I saw that photo. And I realized, God, I realized what we'd done. Calvin couldn't breathe. This is the villain you've been waiting for. Not some cartoon bad guy, but someone who justified evil with efficiency. Who stole 16 years from 4 people and called it protecting assets. 42. Where is Marcus now? Calvin asked, voice deadly calm. Still your general counsel, Patricia said. Still sitting 3 offices down from yours. Calvin ended the call. His vision tunneled. Marcus Reeves, his trusted lawyer, for 16 years, had systematically erased Judith from his life. But here's the part that's going to destroy him, and you need to hear what's in those letters first. His phone buzzed. A text. From Alfred. Can I come by your office today? I have something for you. Calvin typed back immediately. Yes, anytime. 3 hours later, Alfred stood in Calvin's office doorway, looking small against glass and skyline. He held a wooden box. Mom doesn't know I took this, Alfred said quietly. She keeps it in her closet. I found it when I was 9. What is it? Letters, Alfred said. She wrote them to you over the years, when we were babies, when things were bad, when she was breaking. He pushed the box across the desk. She never sent them. I think writing them kept her alive. Calvin's hands shook, opening the latch. Inside, dozens of envelopes, some sealed, some opened and refolded, dates written in familiar handwriting. November 14th. 3 days after he left. He unfolded it. Calvin, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but you're the only person I can imagine saying this to. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. Twins are possible. the doctor said. I laughed, then cried in the parking lot. I don't know how to do this alone. I tried calling. You didn't answer. I don't know if I should try again. J. Calvin blinked tears, reached for the next. January 3rd. They're twins. 2 heartbeats. A boy and a girl. I should have known our story wouldn't do anything halfway. I keep reaching for my phone to call you. Then I remember how you sounded, like I was a meeting you didn't have time for. J. And here's what's going to break you. If you've ever read words that made you realize how badly you failed someone, you know what's coming. He read about premature birth, Mary at 3 pounds 2 ounces, Alfred refusing bottles, Judith alone in a hospital at 2:14 a.m., sobbing into her hands. Eviction notices, working 2 jobs, body breaking down. Mary's breathing scare. Mary stopped breathing last night. 37 seconds. The nurse says it's normal for preemies, but I watched our daughter turn blue. Calvin. I thought I was going to die. When she finally cried, I cried for her. For you. For the man who should have been here. He read about Alfred's first word, Mary's pneumonia, Christmas's choosing heat over presents, 16 years of lonely midnights and unpaid bills. But here's what you need to remember. While Judith was writing these letters, Marcus Reeves was making sure they'd never be needed, making sure Calvin stayed ignorant, making sure this family stayed erased. Some letters were angry, most weren't. Most were heartbreakingly gentle. I checked your website today. You're doing well. I'm happy for you. I just wish we'd been part of it. Calvin couldn't see through tears. His shoulders shook. For the first time in years, he broke completely. If you've ever seen your failures written in someone else's handwriting, take a second and hit that like button. Not for the algorithm, as a quiet, I've been there for yourself. Because what Calvin decides after reading these will determine everything. The last letter was 3 months old. Calvin. The twins asked about you today. They're 16, old enough to understand. I told them you were young, that you made a choice, that people are complicated. I didn't tell them I check your website sometimes, that I watch your speeches on YouTube, that I've seen you become the man I always knew you could be, just not for us. I don't hate you anymore. I'm too tired. But I hope someday you realize the empire you built is empty compared to what you could have had. J. Calvin collapsed forward, forehead hitting the desk. He wept like a child. 16 years of suppressed guilt poured out. Alfred sat in silence. Finally, I thought you should know what it was really like, not so you'd feel sorry for us, but you should know what you walked away from. Calvin lifted his head, eyes red. Thank you for trusting me with this. Alfred looked away. Don't make me regret it. I won't, Calvin said, voice shaking but clear. I promise. Alfred stood. I have to go. Alfred, Calvin said. Wait. The boy paused. There is nothing in these letters that can be fixed, Calvin said. No money, no apology, can erase what your mother went through. I know that. He took a breath. But I'm done being the man those letters are about. I will rewrite who I am. Whether you let me fully in or not, that work is mine. Alfred's throat worked. He nodded once. Actions, not words. Then he was gone. Calvin sat until city lights blinked on. He made 3 decisions. First, cleared his calendar for 2 weeks. Second, wrote Judith a raw, honest letter saying things he should have said 16 years ago. Third, opened his office door and walked 3 doors down. Now here's where everything changes. Because Marcus Reeves is about to get confronted, and what Calvin does next will either rebuild trust or destroy it forever. Marcus looked up from his desk. Calvin. What? Did you delete Judith's voicemails? Marcus went pale. What are you? Patricia Donovan called me this morning, Calvin said, voice deadly calm. Did you delete voicemails from Judith Dixon 16 years ago? Silence. Did you? Calvin's voice rose. You were in the middle of the most important deal of your life, Marcus said carefully. She was a distraction. I was protecting your interests. Calvin's fist hit the desk. She was trying to tell me I was going to be a father. I didn't know that, Marcus said. You didn't care, Calvin corrected. You erased her without asking me. You sent that settlement letter without my knowledge. You stole 16 years from me. I saved your company, Marcus shot back. Without me, you'd have nothing. I have nothing that matters, Calvin roared. I have an empire built on lies, and a family that doesn't know me. Marcus stood. So what now? You fire me? Destroy the company we built? Calvin stared at him. You're fired, he said quietly. Effective immediately. Legal will contact you about transition. You're done. You'll regret this, Marcus said. No, Calvin replied. I regret trusting you. And that right there is what choosing differently looks like. The photo went viral Tuesday morning at 7:14 a.m. Calvin standing outside Judith's building, looking up at a third-floor window, grainy but unmistakable. Billionaire's secret family, Calvin Heckman's hidden life exposed. By 8 a.m., Judith's phone was exploding. Text messages, calls, notifications. Someone had screenshotted and circled the blurred figures at the window. Is this you? Gold digger mom much? Billionaire baby trap successful. Mary's phone buzzed. Someone made a meme. She stared at it, tears streaming. They're saying I'm a gold digger, she whispered to Judith, that we're trying to steal your money. Alfred's group chat erupted. Bro, are you the secret heir? Share the wealth. But here's what they didn't know yet. The journalist who published that photo wasn't done. She was digging deeper. And what she found was going to make everything worse. Judith's hands shook. I won't let the world destroy them. Her phone rang. Calvin, she answered. I saw it, he said immediately. I'm handling it right now. How? Judith demanded. You can't fix the internet. No. But I can make it expensive for anyone who spreads this. He paused. Can I come over? We need to handle this together. Well, one comment of essence. 20 minutes later, he was at their door. Mary's eyes were red. Alfred's jaw was clenched. People are asking if I'm dropping out of school now that I'm set, Alfred said. Voice tight. Someone asked what my inheritance looks like. Calvin pulled out his phone, already dialing. Full media containment protocol, he said to his PR head. Every outlet using that photo gets cease and desist. Take down notices. Push that our foundation work is the story. Any site using the kids' names or faces, bury them legally. He listened. I don't care if it draws attention, he said. Legal action, now, and security liaison at the school. Today. He hung up. Reporters might show up, he said. So security will keep them off school grounds. No one talks to you without consent. We don't need your money, Alfred snapped. This isn't about money, Calvin said quietly. It's about power. I've used it to protect myself for years. I'm using it to protect you now. This is what it looks like when someone finally uses influence for the right reasons. Not to dodge consequences. To shield people who never asked for spotlights. If you're watching this thinking, finally, he's doing something right, tell me in the comments, what would you do if your private life was blasted everywhere without consent? Because what Calvin does over the next 72 hours will either rebuild trust or prove he's the same man Judith remembers. 3 days of storm. Articles came down under legal pressure. Narrative shifted from secret family to billionaire deepens community commitment. Security monitored school perimeter. When a reporter tried approaching Mary outside the library, security intercepted before she noticed. Alfred found out that evening. Some guy with a camera tried to get close to you, he told Mary. Security cut him off. Mary went still. What if he'd gotten me? He didn't, Alfred said, hesitated. Because of him. Nodded toward Calvin's contact. 2 days later, Alfred showed up at Calvin's office, again. My teacher said someone from your company called. Made sure reporters stayed off campus. He shifted weight. The guy who made the trust fund joke apologized. Memes stopped. Calvin set down his document. Are you okay? People moved on, Alfred said quietly. Then, you didn't have to do all that. Yes, I did. Why? Calvin met his son's eyes. Because protecting you isn't optional. It's not transactional. It's what I should have been doing all along. Alfred looked at him for a long moment. Thank you, he said, each word costing him something. First time he'd ever said it. You're welcome, Calvin replied. But what they didn't know, that journalist wasn't backing off. She was digging into Marcus Reeves. And what she'd publish next would expose everything. That Saturday, Mary opened the door before Calvin knocked. Come see, she said, almost smiling. She led him to her paintings. A new one. They're building at dusk. Light in 3 windows. Snow falling. 3 figures visible. I painted this after everything happened, she said. I thought, if the world's going to look up here, I want them to see more than brick. It's beautiful, Calvin said. Meant it. I wasn't as scared this week, she admitted. Going outside. Being seen. I kept thinking, if something happens, he'll handle it. Calvin's throat tightened. I will, he said. Every time. She hugged him unexpectedly. He froze. Then wrapped his arms around her carefully. From the kitchen doorway, Judith watched. And for the first time, something in her expression looked like hope. Remember this moment, because when that journalist publishes her exposé about Marcus Reeves, this fragile piece is going to be tested in ways none of them expect. The first time Mary broke, it happened under fluorescent lights. Winter showcase. 1 week away. Gym smelled like floor polish and teenage sweat. Mary coordinated running order, clipboard in hand. Calvin watched from the back. He'd asked if he could come to rehearsal. Might be weird, Mary said. It'll be fine, Alfred replied. So Calvin came. He watched Mary multitask, juggling needs, solving problems, smoothing edges. He also watched kids whisper when she walked past, one girl's eyes flicking from Mary to phone and back. Then Mary's turn. She was supposed to introduce the art exhibit. Short speech. Less than 2 minutes. Next up, art showcase, the teacher said, introduced by Mary Dixon. Applause. Modest, but warm. Mary walked onto stage, clipboard in one hand, mic in the other. Spotlight hit her. For a second, she stood tall. Then her eyes swept the crowd. She saw the faces, the phones, the kids who'd sent her the article with laughing emojis, who'd whispered, "Billionaire's daughter." Her breath hitched. Her hand trembled. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Now watch what happens next. Because this is where you see who Calvin really is. Silence stretched. Someone snickered in the back. Mary's vision blurred. Calvin stood. He didn't think about optics. Didn't calculate headlines. He just moved. Down the aisle. Up the stairs. Onto the stage. He walked to Mary. Spoke softly. Hey. Breathe with me. Tears spilled. I can't, she whispered. They're all staring. They're thinking about you. And money. And that article. I don't know how to be someone's billionaire's daughter. He put a gentle hand on her shoulder. You don't have to be anyone's billionaire's anything. You just have to be Mary. She blinked. Mary who helps Mr. Chen, he continued. Mary who paints whole worlds. Mary who organizes entire events while her hands shake. That Mary? She's more than enough. Her lip trembled. But they know now. That's my problem to handle, Calvin said. Not yours. I will handle the world. Your job is just to be you. She took a shuddering breath. Do you want to leave? He asked. We can walk right out. Mary glanced at classmates. At artwork on walls. At the mic. I want to finish, she whispered. Just stay close. I'm not going anywhere, he said. He stepped back but stayed on stage. Visible, solid. Mary lifted the microphone. Voice shaky but present. Hi, I'm Mary. Before we see the art, I want to say thank you for every student who stayed up late. For everyone who put a piece of themselves on paper and decided to share anyway. She swallowed. Art is how we tell the truth when words aren't enough, so thank you for your truth. She finished. Applause. Stronger this time. Calvin watched her walk off, head high. Later, in the hallway, she laughed shakily. I almost ran. You didn't, he replied. That's what matters. She looked at him. Thank you for standing there. Anytime. If you've ever watched someone you love fall apart in front of a crowd, you know this helpless feeling. You also know the power of one person quietly standing beside them. If that scene hit something in you, hit subscribe. This isn't just about a billionaire. It's about what it costs to finally show up when it matters. And Alfred? He's about to test Calvin in a way Mary never would. Alfred's breaking point came a week later. Holiday care packages. The Heckman Foundation. Judith volunteered. Twins came. On paper, perfect. Billionaire giving back. Reality. Fluorescent lights, industrial shelving, volunteers packing boxes. Calvin worked alongside them. Sweat at his temples. No expensive watch. taking instructions instead of giving them. 2 hours went smoothly. Then Alfred picked up a toy from donations. Expensive remote-controlled car, top of the line. The kind that would have been magic at 8 years old. He turned it over. Something in his face closed. Without warning, he threw it against the wall. It cracked. Pieces flew. Remote skittered. Conversation died. Alfred, Judith started forward. He was breathing hard, like he'd run a mile. You think this fixes it? He asked, staring at Calvin. Packing boxes and donating expensive toys? Alfred, stop, Judith said. No, he said. I can't smile and be grateful while he gets to feel like a hero. Now pay close attention, because what Calvin does next determines everything. You can't fix what you broke with money, Alfred said, each word sharp. You weren't there when the power got cut. You weren't there when Mom cried. You weren't there when kids asked why we never had a dad. You weren't there for anything. Each accusation landed. Calvin didn't dodge. You're right, he said quietly. Alfred blinked. What? You're right about all of it, Calvin repeated. I wasn't there. I missed birthdays and emergencies and everything between. I can't fix that with money or toys. What I did is permanent. He took a breath. You don't owe me anything, he continued. Not forgiveness, not a relationship, nothing. And if the only way you can be okay is keeping distance, I'll accept that. But I'm still not leaving. Not unless your mother says, I'm causing more harm than good. I'm going to keep showing up, not because I think it earns me anything, but because it's what I should have been doing all along. Alfred's hands curled into fists. His eyes shone with angry tears. He refused to let fall. I hate that I want to believe you, he whispered. I hate that part of me wants a dad, that I care if you stay. I know, Calvin said softly. And I'm sorry, I'm the one who made wanting a dad a painful thing. The anger in Alfred's shoulders sagged into exhaustion. You don't get to be forgiven because you did a few good things, Alfred said. You don't get a clean slate. I'm not asking for a clean slate, Calvin replied. I'm asking for the chance to keep standing here when you tell me the truth. Like you're doing right now. Alfred stared at him for a long moment, then looked away. I'm going to finish my shift, he muttered, because these boxes aren't their fault either. Take all the space you need, Calvin said. I'll still be here next Saturday. He meant it. Judith had watched the whole thing from 10 feet away. Later, when the twins washed their hands and the warehouse thinned, she walked to Calvin. You didn't defend yourself, she said quietly. There's nothing to defend, he replied. Most men would have, she said, told stories about being young, scared. How they didn't know better. I knew better, Calvin said. I just didn't do better. She studied him, really looking. The Calvin I knew would have walked out after that, she said slowly. Called me emotional, blocked my number. He was a coward, Calvin said simply. And now? Judith asked. He met her eyes. Now I'm trying to be the kind of man our son can yell at, without wondering if I'll disappear. Something in her face softened. I'm not ready to forgive you, she said. I don't know if I ever will be, but I see what you did with Mary, and what you didn't do with Alfred. You didn't make it about you, she exhaled. That meant something. Let that sink in for a moment. He didn't win them over with speeches. He stood still while the consequences of his choices hit him in the face, and he stayed. If you've ever had to listen to the truth about yourself from someone you hurt, you know how hard that is. If you're still here, watching this family walk through fire together, hit that like button. Not because this story is pretty, because it's honest. And subscribe if you believe people can actually change when they do the work. By January, Calvin had been part of their lives for 42 days. He counted because each one felt like a second chance he hadn't earned, but was desperately grateful for. He learned their rhythms. When Mary painted late afternoons, soft, golden light. When Alfred needed quiet early mornings, headphones on, code open. He learned Judith took her coffee black because she'd trained herself out of wanting cream. So he brought a small container on Saturdays, left it in their fridge without comment. First time she used it, she rolled her eyes. This is unnecessary, she said. You're unnecessary, Alfred muttered from the table. Judith hid a smile. Don't sass the man who brings real cream. Mary laughed. The sound filled the kitchen. But here's what you need to remember, and this detail matters for what's coming. That journalist who published the first photo? She's still digging. And what she finds about Marcus Reeves is going to explode everything. Calvin went to Alfred's robotics competition, 3 hours away. He drove them in the modest sedan. Judith sat in back with Mary. Alfred up front, alternating between nervous silence and over-explaining his medication dispenser project. "It's for Mr. Chen," Alfred said. "He forgot his meds 3 times last month, ended up in the ER once." "That's impressive," Calvin said, "that you turned that into something useful." "I haven't yet," Alfred muttered, "but I will." The competition was in a high school gym. Folding chairs, teams hunched over robots. Calvin watched his son move through that world with confidence, focused, in his element. When the demonstration hit, a snag dispenser jammed, Alfred's face went white. "Watch what he does next. Because this is where you see who raised him." Calvin watched him take a breath, close his eyes briefly, then crouch, and fix it on the fly. Rerouted a wire. Adjusted code. Got it working with seconds to spare. The audience applauded. Calvin was on his feet. He didn't realize he was the only parent standing until he saw Judith smiling from 2 rows ahead. When Alfred looked up and saw him clapping, something unguarded flashed across his face. Pride, not in the machine. In the fact that someone was proud of him. Alfred's team won 2nd place. On the drive home, Alfred talked more than he ever had. He dissected every aspect. What worked, what he'd improve, how he wanted to add a chime for the hard of hearing. Judith listened, head leaned back. Mary chimed in with questions. For a few moments, it sounded like they'd been doing this for years. And this is what family actually sounds like. Not perfect, just present. That night, after dropping them off, Calvin's phone buzzed. Text from Judith. "Thank you for today. You didn't have to drive 3 hours each way." He replied, "I did have to. I missed too many days like that. I'm not missing any more." 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then, "Would you want to come by tomorrow night? After the twins are asleep? We should talk." Calvin, "Yes, just say when." The next night, 10:30 p.m. Judith answered in an old sweatshirt and leggings, hair down around her shoulders. She looked younger and older all at once. "They're asleep," she said. "For real asleep, not TikTok asleep." He smiled. They sat at the wobbly kitchen table, tea in mismatched mugs. For a while, neither spoke. "I've been angry at you for 16 years, Judith said finally. No preamble, just truth. I carried that anger like armor. It kept me from collapsing when things got hard. I deserve that anger," Calvin said quietly. "I thought if I ever saw you again, I'd scream. Throw something, make you feel what I felt." She looked at him directly. "But now you're here, and you're not who I pictured." He waited. "You're not the boy who walked away," she said slowly. "You're not the man from magazines either. You're someone else. Someone trying. Really trying. And I don't know what to do with that." "You don't have to do anything with it," he said. "Not for me." "It's not about you," she said, sharper, then softened. "It's about them. Because whether I like it or not, you're in their lives now. Mary lights up when she talks about you. Alfred complains about you. But he talks about you. They watch the clock on Saturdays." He swallowed. "And that terrifies me," she said. "Because if you leave again, if you disappoint them like you disappointed me, I don't know if I can put them back together." "I won't leave," he said. "You can't promise that," she replied. "Life happens. But I need to know, are they important enough now that you would choose them, if another Dawson deal walked in?" He didn't hesitate. "Yes." She searched his face for the lie. "I loved you," she said quietly. "I never stopped, not really. I tried to. But some stubborn part of me kept hoping you'd grow into the man I thought you could be." "I'm sorry it took 16 years, he said. "I'm sorry it took breaking me," she countered gently. They sat there in the tiny kitchen, 2 people who once shared a beat-up couch, now sharing the weight of decades. "I still have your check," she said suddenly. "In my dresser." "I know, I saw it. I used to look at it when things got bad," she admitted. "Not because I wanted the money. Because it reminded me of who you were. The choice you made." "And now," he asked, "now I see you sitting on my wobbly chair, drinking cheap tea, listening to our children like what they say is the most important thing in your day." Her eyes shone. "And I see change." She reached across the table. He froze as her fingers brushed his. "I'm not ready to forgive you," she said. "But I think I might be ready to stop fighting the fact that I still care." He turned his hand, lacing fingers with hers. "I love you," he said quietly. "I loved you at 23, even if I was too much of a coward to choose you. And I love you now, the woman who did everything I should have done." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "You don't get to say that and expect everything to go back," she said. "I don't want what we had," he replied. "I want what we could be now. As the people we are. Older. Bruised. Maybe a little wiser." She let out a shaky laugh. "The twins want you at the winter gala," she said. "They asked if you'd come. With us." He swallowed. "They did?" Mary said. "He drove 3 hours to watch Alfred's robot." "I think he deserves to see me in a real dress," Judith smiled. Alfred muttered something about it being fine, which for him is basically an engraved invitation. His vision blurred. "I'll be there," he said. "Whatever they need." "I know," she replied softly. She squeezed his hand before pulling back. They didn't kiss that night. But something fundamental shifted. Not forgiveness, but permission to hope. If you've ever carried anger so long it became part of you, then felt it crack under the weight of real change, you know what Judith is feeling. That terrifying, exhilarating sense that maybe you won't have to do everything alone anymore. If you've made it this far with them, share this with someone who still believes people can change, even if they're scared to admit it. Because the Winter Gala isn't just a school event, it's where this fragile family steps into the light together. But here's what none of them know. That journalist is publishing her exposé about Marcus Reeves tomorrow. And when the world finds out what he did, how he systematically erased Judith from Calvin's life, everything they've built will be tested. The night of the Winter Gala, Judith stood in front of the mirror holding 2 dresses. Navy, burgundy, both secondhand. Both bought years ago for occasions that never happened. Mary leaned in the doorway wearing emerald green she'd altered herself. "Mom, you look beautiful in both. Pick one, or I'm picking for you." "I haven't been to something like this since college," Judith said. "I know. You've told us." Mary walked over, pressed the burgundy into her mother's hands. "This one, trust me." In the living room, Alfred tugged at his tie. Slightly too short, slightly too wide, but he'd tied it himself. "You look handsome," Mary called. "Shut up," he muttered, cheeks flushing. Judith's phone buzzed. "I'm downstairs. No rush. See." She took a breath. "Ready?" "No," both twins said. They laughed. Calvin stood beside the sedan when they stepped out. Charcoal suit, deep blue tie, no watch. Just a man in a suit, breath visible, in the cold. His eyes widened when he saw Judith. "You look beautiful," he said. She rolled her eyes, but color touched her cheeks. The drive was filled with Mary's chatter and Alfred's grunted responses. Judith watched Calvin's steady hands on the wheel. The gym had been transformed. White lights, silver cloth, pine garlands, paper snowflakes, students in dresses and ill-fitting suits. Heads turned when Calvin walked in with them. Judith's stomach clenched. But Calvin stepped half a pace behind the twins, letting them lead. When people stared, he pretended not to notice. And here's what you don't know yet. Security at every door isn't just Calvin's doing. The principal received an anonymous tip that a journalist planned to crash the event. That same journalist who's been digging into Marcus Reeves. The program began. Music, performances. Mary's artwork hung in the hallway watercolors of the neighborhood, Mr. Chen's store, the park. One piece stopped Calvin. They're building at dusk, lights glowing, snow falling. "You captured it," he said. "Captured what?" Mary asked. "Home," he replied. Her eyes softened. Alfred's turn came next. He stood on stage in his slightly too big blazer with his team and their medication dispenser prototype. He explained clearly how it worked, reminded patients, dispensed doses, sent alerts if doses were missed. He didn't mention Mr. Chen's hospital stay. He didn't have to. When the device beeped and dispensed a pill-shaped candy into a tiny cup right on cue, the audience clapped. Calvin was on his feet again, hands stinging. Alfred scanned the crowd, found him, didn't look away this time. He smiled. "Remember this exact moment, because when that article publishes in 2 hours, this will be the memory that carries them through." After presentations, the gym shifted to social mode. Music played. Students danced awkwardly. Judith and Calvin stood near the wall, watching their children. "They're incredible," Calvin said. "You did that." "We did that," she corrected softly. "You gave them eyes and stubbornness. I just made sure they ate." He shook his head. "You did more than that." She looked at him. At the lines near his eyes, the gray at his temples, the way he watched their kids like there was nowhere else he'd rather be. "You're not the same man you were," she said quietly. "I'm trying every day not to be," he replied. "I can see that." Tears welled. "And I need you to hear this. Even if I'm mad, I'm saying it. I never stopped hoping you'd grow into this version of yourself." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry it took this long. I'm sorry it took breaking me," she said softly. They stood there, the noise fading around them. "I'm not saying I forgive you," she continued. "I'm not saying we just pick up where we left off. But I am saying I think I'm ready to stop holding on to anger like it's protecting me, and start seeing what happens if I let myself hope again." He reached for her hand slowly. She didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined. "I will spend the rest of my life earning that hope," he said. "I can't promise I'll never mess up, but I can promise I won't disappear when things get hard." She nodded, wiping her eyes. From across the room, Mary and Alfred approached. "You two look suspicious," Mary said. "What are you talking about?" "Grown-up things," Judith said. "Nosy." Alfred eyed their joined hands. "So, are you guys like a thing now?" "Alfred," Judith gasped. Calvin laughed. "We are talking about what it means to try again. Slowly." "Good," Mary said firmly. "You're cute when you're not being an idiot." "Mary," Judith groaned. Alfred rolled his eyes. "This is disgusting." But there was a smile tugging at his mouth. "Picture," Mary said suddenly. "We need a picture. Just for us. No posting." Judith looked at Calvin. "You okay with that?" "More than okay," he said. They huddled together, Judith and Calvin in the middle, Mary and Alfred flanking. Mary snapped the photo. Outside, when the night ended, they stepped into softly falling snow. Parking lot mostly empty, streetlights casting halos in white flurries. Mary stuck her tongue out to catch flakes. Alfred shoved his hands in his pockets, pretending he wasn't enjoying it. Judith watched them, then looked at Calvin. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "For what?" he asked. "Driving? Awkward parent small talk?" "For being here," she said. "Just for being here." "You're welcome," he replied. They stood under slow-falling snow, four people broken in different ways by the same absence, slowly, tentatively, becoming something new. Some of you watching this have been hurt by someone who walked away. A parent, a partner, a friend, and some stubborn part of you still hopes they might come back different one day. Second chances are not about forgetting the past. They're about someone proving, day after day, that they're no longer the person who hurt you. If this story has stirred something in you, made you remember, or cry, or think about your own moments like this, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Subscribe, so you don't miss stories that honor this kind of strength. Like this video, so other women who've carried love and anger side by side for years can find it. And share in the comments if you've ever seen someone truly change, or if you're still waiting. Because what happens after this night isn't a fairy tale, it's something better. It's real. And when Calvin's phone buzzes at midnight with a news alert about Marcus Reeves' betrayal going public, when the world finds out what was stolen from this family, that's when they'll find out if what they've built can survive the truth. The article published at 11:47 p.m. How a billionaire's lawyer erased his secret family for 16 years. Calvin's phone lit up. Then Judith's. Then a cascade of notifications across every device. The journalist had done her homework, interviewed Patricia Donovan, obtained records, documented every deleted voicemail, every intercepted call, every wall Marcus Reeves built between Calvin and his children. It was devastating, thorough, undeniable. By morning, the story had shifted entirely. From billionaire's secret family to lawyer's unethical cover-up, from gold digger speculation to family reunion after systemic interference. Public opinion turned hard. Marcus Reeves became the villain. Calvin became something else. Not a hero, but a man trying to fix what someone else had broken. 6 weeks after the article, things had settled into something resembling normalcy. Calvin declined a meeting with international investors, because it conflicted with Mary's art showcase. His CFO stared. "Sir, this is a $40 million deal." "Then they can wait until Monday," Calvin replied. "I have somewhere to be." He had somewhere to be every Saturday. Most Sundays. Wednesday evenings for Alfred's robotics. Thursday afternoons when Mary volunteered. Calvin had learned their schedules like he used to memorize quarterly reports, with absolute precision and unwavering commitment. He'd also learned other things. That Mary hummed while she painted. Always the same melody Judith used to sing to them as babies. That Alfred checked door locks twice before bed, a habit born from years of living where safety wasn't guaranteed. Calvin never commented, just made sure the locks were good ones. These small intimacies felt more valuable than any empire. It was a Sunday in late January when Mary asked if Calvin wanted to see something. "We made you something," she said quietly. "Alfred and me." She led him to the corner, returned carrying a flat package wrapped in brown paper. "We wanted to," Alfred said, standing beside his sister, united. Calvin unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a canvas covered in collage. In the center, the photo from the winter gala, the four of them in the snow, breath visible, all smiling. Around it, Mary had painted scenes: the apartment building, the park bench, Mr. Chen's storefront, the robotics lab, the charity event, where everything began. Between the paintings, Alfred had added printed photos. Calvin at the competition, at Mary's art show, helping pack charity boxes. Candid moments Calvin hadn't known were captured. In the corners, careful handwriting. "Family isn't just blood. It's chosen. Showing up matters. Second chances are real." And at the bottom, in both their hands, "Thank you for choosing us, Mary and Alfred." Calvin's vision blurred completely. His hands shook. "I don't." His voice broke. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Mary said. "Just keep showing up," Alfred added quietly. "That's all we need." Calvin set the canvas down and pulled both twins into a hug the first time, embracing them both at once. Mary melted into it immediately. Alfred stiffened for half a second before his arms came up, and he held on tight. Judith watched from the kitchen doorway, tears streaming. When Calvin released them, he wiped his eyes. "I love you both. I know I don't have the right to say that yet. I know I haven't earned it. But I do. I love you fiercely. And I will spend the rest of my life proving it." Mary smiled through tears. "We know." Alfred nodded. "We're starting to believe it." That evening, after the twins went to bed, Judith asked Calvin to stay. "Just for a bit," she said. "We should talk." They sat on the couch, the one with the broken spring, where Calvin first learned about the uncashed check. But this time, Judith sat close, not touching, but close. "I've been thinking," she began, "about us, about what this is." Calvin's heart hammered. "Okay. For 16 years, I told myself I was over you," Judith continued. "That I'd healed, moved on, built a life that didn't need you." She looked at him, but I was lying. "Because the truth is, I never stopped loving the person I thought you could become. I just stopped believing you'd become him." Calvin reached for her hand. She met him halfway. "I'm not the same woman you left," Judith said. "I'm harder, more guarded. I've been through things that changed me." "I know," Calvin whispered. "And you're not the same man who left." "I'm trying not to be." Judith's fingers tightened. "So, maybe we stop trying to resurrect what we were. Maybe we figure out what we could be. Now. As the people we've become." Calvin's breath caught. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying I want to try," Judith interrupted. "Slowly. Carefully. Without expectations. But I want to try." Calvin lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. "I will earn this, every day. I will choose you, choose all of you." "I know," Judith said softly. She leaned her head against his shoulder. "That's why I'm willing to hope again." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, breathing in sync. "I love you," Calvin said quietly. "I loved you 16 years ago, when I was too stupid to choose you. And I love you now, the woman who raised incredible children alone, who sacrificed everything, who kept hoping even when I gave you no reason to." Judith lifted her head, eyes searching his face. "I love you too. God help me, I never stopped." Calvin cupped her face gently, thumb brushing away a tear. "May I kiss you?" he asked. Judith's answer was to close the distance. The kiss was soft, tentative, 16 years of loss and longing compressed into a single gentle moment. It tasted like forgiveness and hope and new beginnings. When they pulled apart, both were crying. "We're going to take this slow," Judith said, forehead resting against his. "As slow as you need," Calvin agreed. "The twins come first. Always. And if you hurt us, I won't." Calvin interrupted gently. "But if I do? You have every right to walk away. I know that. And I accept it." Judith smiled despite her tears. "Okay." 3 months later, on a Saturday in April, the four of them walked through the neighborhood park together. The trees were budding. Air still had a bite, but sunlight filtered through branches in that hopeful way it does when winter finally loosens its grip. Mary walked ahead, snapping photos of early flowers for a series she was planning. Alfred walked beside Calvin, talking about an email from a university interested in his work. Judith and Calvin walked in the middle, hands brushing occasionally, falling together without thinking. "We built something," she said quietly. "You did," he corrected. "I just finally showed up to help." She squeezed his hand. "We did. You don't get to erase yourself from the good anymore. You're here. You're trying. You're loving them. That counts." He looked at his children, his son, already taller than him, talking about engineering and ethics. His daughter, framing the world through an artist's eye that caught beauty in cracked sidewalks and rusted swings. He looked at the woman beside him, who had every reason to hate him, and instead chose to hope. "I spent 20 years building wealth," he said softly. "But I only started building a life when I met you, and when I finally came back to all of you." Judith smiled. "You were always rich," she said. "You just didn't know where to look." They reached the park gate as the sun dipped low, painting everything gold. Mary came back, looping her arm through Calvin's. Alfred walked on his other side, hands in pockets, but close. "Where to for dinner?" Mary asked. "Somewhere cheap," Alfred said immediately. "He's buying." Everyone laughed. "I am absolutely buying," Calvin said, "but you get to choose." The four of them walked out of the park together, shadows long on the sidewalk. No cameras, no headlines, no spectacle. Just a family. Not perfect, not healed all the way, but real. Chosen. If you've stayed with this story all the way to this moment, you already know the truth. Wealth is numbers. Richness is people. Richness is a daughter whose coat is patched, but whose heart is whole. A son who yells because he cares. A woman who did the hard thing alone and still found it in herself to love again when it was finally safe. If this story made you feel seen, if it reminded you of your own strength, your own second chances, your own quiet bravery, subscribe to be part of a space where stories honor women who carried everything and still stood tall. Like this video, so other grandmothers, mothers, daughters, and sisters can find it. And in the comments, share one thing you chose for yourself, a boundary, a second chance, or even just the decision to rest. Because like Judith, like Mary, like so many women watching right now, you deserve to be the center of the story, not the afterthought. And sometimes, the richest futures are the ones we decide to build, long after we thought it was too late.